we get stuck. And when I say we get stuck mentally, we get stuck emotionally, and we get stuck physically in negative situations. So one of the ways we do this is in our focus. I mentioned earlier about focusing on problems. Another toxic mistake that we make that keeps us stuck is that we tend to focus on our past. And what happens, and psychologists explain why this happens. One of the reasons why people focus on their past, and unfortunately, we don't just focus on our past, but we focus on the most negative part of our past. We replay these things. We fixate on these things. And one of the reasons why we do that is it's sort of like a protective measure, that we think that I have to remember this and I have to keep replaying it so that it doesn't happen again. So we're thinking that this is going to protect us, but it actually becomes self-defeating. Because you're actually you may actually be creating patterns where these things repeat. So being fixated on a negative part of your past isn't going to protect you. It actually can have the counter effect. So what we have to do is, we have to learn from the things that happened to us in our past. But we cannot get fixated on that. We have to have the mental discipline to be able to think about moving forward rather than being stuck in the past. And now this brings me to the next words of wisdom. And this was something I read, and I thought it's something that if we live by this, we wouldn't fall into this trap. And that is that, remember that the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. That it's a place of reference, not a place of residence. Now, to make this stick, I'm going to give you an analogy. When you're driving on the highway, where do you have to look? In front. Good. Okay. What would happen if you, instead of looking in front, you fixated on what was behind you? You'd crash. Simple. So, when we're driving in a car, we have a reference to what's behind us, right? It's called that little mirror. It's called the rear view mirror, right? How big is it? It's like this big. Even if you get the really big one, it's like this big. Yeah? How big is the window that shows us what's in front of us? It's this big. Why? Because our focus is supposed to be moving forward. It's not supposed to be what's behind. However, we should reference what's behind, right? Just to have an idea of where we're going. But if someone stops looking forward and just looks at the rear view mirror,